Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat,
Miami.
Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, for our audience here on Twitch, to the left of me is our producer and co-founder, Brian Goins.
Yo, Chad's happy down back. So am I.
Jack's happy. Yeah, listen, Brian, you're a fan favorite.
Am I?
On the bottom of the
what
screen.
do I do that
directly
you guys like? Actually, put that in the comment section because I always get like positive feedback, but I really don't know what I do that's really good.
Brian gets more
you have
positive
great
feedback than
rants
I
out
do.
of nowhere. You're really good at those, actually.
Rants?
Yeah.
That voice you hear to the bottom of me is our statistician and professional Photoshopper, Christian Hernandez.
What's up, everybody?
How's it going, man? It's been a long time since I've heard you.
I know it's been days.
Kristen and I were in a call like 10 minutes ago for an hour.
Christian, I like your shirt. Where'd you get that shirt from?
Shout out to Swisho Mode on Twitter. I know that he's been trying to get a little merch business going, but I actually bought this off his little shop. I wish I had a link. I'm gonna tweet him, and I'll give you guys a link a little later today where you can get this shirt right here.
What does it say?
Huh?
What does it say?
It says that they're in trouble. It was right after, what was it? It was right after game 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
That other voice you hear on the bottom left is our draft expert, Alex Musibay.
What's going on, people? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How do you like your title, draft expert? We needed a title for everybody, and I like draft expert. You are our draft expert.
That's fine with me, man. Christian will tell you I'm obsessed with the draft in every league. It's a weird thing. I almost, for the NFL, I almost enjoy the draft more than the games.
Listen, people love draft coverage, and we're glad to have you because God knows I like it. So
I
a
like
couple
draft
things.
coverage when we have a pick, so.
Well, there
Every
you go.
other year.
So I'll be on every other year.
Every other year that he'd have a pick. That's the Pat Riley way. So kind of a couple things we wanted to get to in today's show. By the way, I have to plug and promote. Check out Hangover Time. It's our brand new post-game show on Miami Heat Beat, following every Heat game right at the buzzer. Heat Twitter president Alf at Alf954 on Twitter. He's going to be hosting. It's going to be less of me. This is Alf's project. This is Alf's show under the Miami Heat Beat umbrella, live here on twitch.tv/MIA Heat Beat. So check that out. We also upload the VODs to YouTube. So if you can't catch the show live or you miss it, it'll be uploaded the next, within minutes of it ending here on Twitch. We'll upload it to YouTube, so check that out on our Miami Heat Beat YouTube channel. Also, we're going to be streaming a little bit out of there. We're kind of doing every other game. One's going to be Twitch, one's going to be YouTube. Up until January, we're fully just going to come to Twitch, just kind of get some of Alf's audience that isn't really used to Twitch, kind of over there. So that's what. Yeah, and also the Hangover Time is going to be on the pod feed. So if you listen on the podcast, you've probably noticed a couple Hangover Time episodes. Those are Alf. That's Alf. I'm not involved in that. Sometimes I pop in, sometimes I produce, but that is an Alphonse Sidney vehicle. So because that's an Alphonse Sidney vehicle, we as this Heat Beat podcast not really talked about second preseason game against the Raptors. Alex, I know you were on the post game show with me with Alf, but kind of wanted to get more into the nitty gritty of what happened. So I, for one, was very happy with the way Goran Dragic looked. I think that, to me, there's a lot to take away with KZ Okpala and with how Precious looked and a lot of stuff. But to me, the best thing about that game was, Alex, Goran looked healthy.
Absolutely. We really didn't get to talk about it too much on Hangover Time, and it's just amazing to me to just to see him on the court moving the way he is right now, considering where he was in the bubble, and we all know the extent of that injury. It's going to be so beneficial for this team to get off to a good start. Just being able to have him in any type of role at the start of the year, which I know he said he was healthy, but it was also, I didn't really buy it. And seeing him on the court last night, the way that he was able to move, the way that he was able to get to his spots, it was just incredibly overwhelming to see.
The pick and roll chemistry with Precious, I think, is huge too, because I think a lot of us speculated on this show, is Precious going to be used more as a wing or as a big? And they really liked him getting downhill with Goran. There was a play, we kind of went over this on Hangover Time. We posted the highlight was Precious kind of got the ball at the top of the key, took 2 dribbles around the perimeter, and initiated a handoff with Goran, right? Which is very similar to what Bam does. It's almost like imperceptible. Cooper Moorhead had tweeted that. And he just takes a handoff, rolls to the rim, kind of the big is kind of corralling Goran in the drop coverage, and he slips in space. And now, Goran, who's a much improved lob thrower, as we've talked about on this show a bunch, Precious downhill for a dunk, and he's an athletic freak. His athleticism. I know Bam is athletic, Christian, but Precious has athleticism that jumps out of the page. That you're just like, oh wow, this guy is gonna out jump everybody, right? Only the violent will survive, as he says. He has that kind of athleticism that they haven't had in a while.
No, definitely. And obviously we're still very much dealing in very small samples, and it's hard to gauge what's going to be able to hold up over the courses of an NBA season, especially one like this one, which I feel like is going to be a more rushed season than usual. But I mean, the athleticism the first 2 games has just jumped off. When he's in the pick and roll, when he's both offensively and defensively, he makes, opposing offensive players very uncomfortable, which is obviously a great trait the Heat love to see. And he just seems really comfortable around the rim too. I was really surprised how comfortable he is putting the ball on the ground and, driving towards the rim and finishing comfortably. I think that's a huge sign already. Somebody with his size and athleticism to have that kind of touch around the rim is going to be really valuable. And if he can spread it out at all from there, obviously his ceiling only grows.
For me, the other thing with him was that they played him with Olynyk, right? And I thought that kind of told us a bit about how they feel about him. I think that him with the shooting big is really interesting, because even with him and Olynyk in the lineups, they were having him screen and kind of roll. They were having him be the center and Olynyk be the 4, which I'm actually curious about how that would hold up defensively, because that having Olynyk as usually when they play Bam and Olynyk can guard the center and then Bam goes for the quicker guys. That one I'm curious about, because you can have Precious guard 4s and Olynyk guard 5s. I guess that's not an issue, but to me that was something that really stood out, because they didn't go to that Bam Olynyk lineup very often last season, which I thought was kind of interesting, because they really leaned on that the year before. And if they're doing that in preseason, that might tell me that they're a little bit interested in doing that. And for me, I think there's a bit of issues with depth at the 4, right? So if you believe in KZ, right, and you don't believe in Mo Harkless, all of a sudden, you're an ankle turn away from really not having a lot of minutes at Andre Iguodala at the 5. At the 4, you know what I mean? So
I would love to avoid that at all costs, honestly.
I do too. So last season, Bam and Olynyk together played about 580 minutes. By far the lowest combination of them on the court, either one off, one on, or whatever. So they barely played together really in that, I guess, last season. So if they're really committing to playing 2 bigs, I like it with Precious. I like what they did. I think he's really versatile, and they have enough shooting to make that work. So that's just something I kind of want people to know going in. The big story though was KZ Okpala. Brian, we are leaders of the free KZ movement. I feel very validated.
I don't think we can take credit for that.
Brian doesn't know what he signed up for.
No, that's Trilly.
Is that Trilly? I feel like we brought it to I feel like we're the media entity that brought it to the public.
We made it more mainstream. Let's put it that way.
I'm in. Brian, he looks so good.
Oh, he looked awesome. Honestly, I tweeted something controversial. I don't know if it's really that controversial, but somebody, I had a lot of responses that approved what I said. And I said that I thought KZ played his best game, and it was better than whatever Winslow gave us in a Heat uniform.
I hate that take. That's not true. That's not true at all. Justice was on the road in Toronto when Toronto was had the second best record and took over the game and won on the road. That's just not true. We could talk about KZ being good without putting down
Toronto too with KZ going off.
Yeah, but Brian, that's a fucking preseason game. Gerald Green used to do that in the preseason.
He still locked down Fred VanVleet for 20.
Rodney McGruder used to do that in the preseason. Don't you remember preseason Rodney? Preseason Rodney's a top 10
goes
Heat
6
player.
for 10 from 3?
Preseason Rodney might be one of the 10 greatest Heat players ever.
Nah, preseason Joel Green is.
Preseason Gerald Green and preseason Rodney. Are
Preseason
both
Gerald
NBA.
Green, I thought we were going to hang his jersey in the
Didn't
rafters.
he win a starting job because of how well he played in the preseason?
Yeah,
Who,
no. Who, Rodney
which
or
one?
Gerald Green?
I think both
Rodney.
did, actually.
I think both of them too, actually.
Like, they both just catapulted their careers of strong preseason. I don't want to put too much stock in preseason games, especially for young guys, because it's just weird because we didn't have a summer league, right? So there's no kind of – this is really the first action that we get to see. Like, KZ would have been so good in summer league. That would have – I mean, we don't talk about that enough, how I think more than Precious – KZ really missed out on kind of getting his sea legs under
That's
him.
on 2 straight summer leagues. That's impressive.
Huh?
That's impressive how you missed 2 straight summer leagues.
Yep.
That's like, and that sucks for a guy like him. Like, those developmental reps are really, really important. And if
And like
he's
2
going to
real
be
training camps too. He hasn't really had much practice with the team at all. It's hilarious.
and he's been in Sioux Falls a lot of times too, so he hasn't really been with the team very much. He was with them in the bubble, but Alex, like, if he's their solution at the 4, like, Mo Harkless has not looked good through 2 games, right? And I don't think we should overreact because it's preseason and, whatever. It's going to be weird to start. I think if after a certain amount of time, Mo Harkless is clearly not your guy, I think they might have found really their high-end ceiling in KZ Okpala.
Listen, I'm with you that you shouldn't overreact to preseason games, but I'm also okay with a little bit of overreaction to this KZ one because we really haven't been able to see much of him. And we've been waiting for a game like this, a game to solidify, okay, we see what the staff sees in him. We see where he could play on this team. My hesitation with starting to fall in love with this guy, and we'll discuss it a little bit later, is he going to be here? Like, I think he's absolutely our solution at 4 if that's what the staff wants to go with. I would love to see that. I think as much athleticism as you can get out there, have him at the 4, have Bam at the 5, be able to run and gun. But is he going to be here this year? That's something we need to actually, discuss.
Untouchable.
I don't know about that, guys.
KZ Okpala. I think the interesting thing is that, and our friend Leif from 5 on the Floor kind of brought this up again. The Heat had KZ second on their draft board the year they drafted Tyler, right? So I don't know how much stock we want to put into that. I'm sure that teams say that about their guys all the time, right? Oh yeah, well, we were eyeing you from the start, kid. Don't worry, yes sir. But I don't know. They seem to be really right when they like those guys. What you got, Alex?
I was just going to say, I wish I could credit the writer. I know it was somebody local that they had KZ on their draft board between 15 and 20. Keep in mind, our pick was 14. So they clearly had a high upside potential viewpoint when scouting this guy.
When they drafted him, they said, no, we got 2 first-round talents this draft. And they said the same about Josh and Justice. So when those 2 got drafted, I remember they went out of their way to talk up Josh more than they talked Justice. I mean, they were like, you don't understand. We got this. And they were right. We got the steal of the draft. This kid is so good. And we got him in the second round for nothing. And they were right. I mean, that dude's awesome. He's a winner. He's won here. He's going to be great in Dallas. And we're all big Josh fans.
Yes, he is.
They've been really good at kind of winning at the margins. Listen, the scouting department post LeBron has been absolutely fucking unreal. They've just been outrageously good. I would argue maybe the best in the league. Considering where they pick, right? They're not picking top 10 ever, right? What was Justice 9th? That was probably the one that went
Justice
the worst.
was 10th.
Yeah, and like I know I see chat like talking shit about Justice or whatever. Like, that's fine. Like, you can be upset about the injury history or whatever. I mean, when he was on the floor, he was productive. We're not gonna have to rehash that. But I mean, in general, they haven't really picked inside the top 10, and they've hit on almost every pick. Even Shabazz Napier is a guy that is still in the league.
I don't think he's on a team right now, is he?
Is he? I mean, he's last.
Well, what? Let's forget that one because
that was the
I
one that
agree
got
with what you're
ragged
saying.
on because people thought that LeBron was making the pick, right?
Yeah, it
I
should have
mean,
been the Clint year.
He was on a team last year. He was on Washington. So I mean, he was somewhere, and he averaged double-digit scoring. He was almost 12 points a game. So, it's not like he's some bum, right? He's a good, productive NBA journeyman. So like even though he was the worst of the picks, I mean, he's still not bad. You know what I mean? Like, he's been good. Like, I'm really impressed with their scouting, because I think before that, in the big 3 years, it was just a lot of bad. I mean, Norris Cole, like, clearly out of the league. The second LeBron left aside, it was tough for him.
Norris Cole was the good pick, though. I defend that. He was good for what we needed
Cole.
him for those 2 years.
He was great.
Yeah.
He fit in awesome here because he was a point guard that didn't have to have a lot of like offensive responsibility. Yeah, Jack.
Wasn't
Jack
he the
Alfonso,
one that had that really cool van?
Yes, he did.
Jack
green
Alfonso's
one.
in chat
Yeah.
saying that James Ennis was also very good, and he's still in the league too. And I think
Contribution, yep.
when you draft a guy, you don't always have to hit on a star. As long as the guys are able to contribute in the league for sustained periods of time, I mean, that's a win. If you can get a rotation player, in the draft, especially late first round or second round, that's a win.
And look, the Heat are getting undrafted guys paid. I mean,
Starters.
look at the list. Hassan, you got Duncan
Johnson.
Robinson's going to make a lot of money. Tyler Johnson, Derrick Jones Jr. just made some money.
Rodney, the Clippers really wanted Rodney. I mean,
There you
that
go.
was a guy that
Yeah.
they really wanted, and he's a productive player, right? So I just wanted to shout out their scouting, because it's been good. And like when they're high on KZ, I believe them. I believe how high. I mean, you saw the versatility defensively. You saw the shooting. Like you like, that's just the high end of everything that you want out of it, right? So Kristen, I know we talked a little bit pre-show. Do you have some of those KZ stats?
I mean, I have one in particular, which, I mean, it really does speak to the volume of like the impact that he's had. But
hold on, wait. We're bringing back a segment. So if you have the stats ready, I kind of want to bring the segment back.
I mean, it's only preseason, so I've got a couple of fun ones. But yeah, let's bring it back.
If you're a long time Miami Heat Beat listener, you might remember we used to do segments. We used to do Hot Take Harry. We used to do what else did we do, Brian? We did Hot Take. Hot Take Harry was.
We have the mailbag, which we could still repurpose.
We have the mailbag
Brian's
segment.
Time to shine. Brian's time to shine.
Yeah, you would like Brian's time to Brian's like, yeah, Brian's time to shine. That was
Yo,
a good
chat
segment.
loves me still.
And you wonder why people love you. I mean, come on. Look at that.
God. Yeah,
People
right.
Look
in
at the
chat-
energy.
People in chat are asking where's Alf, and then there's this guy who's my new friend. His name is at DG. I don't know how you pronounce his name. DGA89. He says no Alf needed as long as Brian's in this bitch.
Well, there you go. So we're bringing back
Nice.
maybe my favorite of the segments, and it's small sample size theater, and we have imaging.
When it comes to samples, size matters. Except for this next segment. Let's have some fun with some small, teeny-weeny sample sizes. This is Small Sample Size Theater, featuring Nick Heights, Duncan or Christian Hernandez, whoever is available.
I love the whoever is available. What you got, Chris?
Okay, well, obviously KZ was incredible, especially in the game against the Raptors the other night. Thank God, because then we all got to take a massive lap around you. But the way that he was really breaking it down was when he was just spotting up behind the arc and he was just draining every shot he took, to the point that I looked it up, and according to Synergy Sports, KZ Okpala was the third most efficient player in preseason on spot ups, while scoring the the seventh most points in the preseason. So he was doing it both efficiently and getting the points down compared to the league leaders.
So we
that's the
got
kind of
another
stuff that
all-star.
you need to slot at least 20 minutes for it, at least a solid 20 minutes. And now, especially while we're talking about slotting minutes, pardon me, Gianni, I want to talk about the new guy on the roster. Well, I mean, really, KZ, we're treating him kind of like a rookie too, but the new guy on the roster, Precious, man, he really showed out in those 2 games, so much so that he shot a cool 69% from the field, which
Nice.
That's really nice, and you cannot
so
compare
nice.
with that. Sometimes it doesn't have to be an advanced stat. Sometimes those old school field goal percentage, god damn, they're just so right on about the general impact that a player had. And I mean, and really talking about Precious for a second, 10.5 points and 8.5 rebounds and 1.5 assists in 21 minutes in the preseason. Like, he is already filling up the box score like early on, and I'm gonna love to see if he can continue to bring that against like NBA starter rotation level talent.
Chat says that we're gonna get in trouble for that music. That's my
Yeah, we are. I forgot about that. That's an actual song.
whoops.
Wait, what's the
Wow,
problem with the music? Oh, it's an actual song.
We're gonna get. Oh my God, DMCA! No.
That's all right. You can. I'm sure you can fix this somehow.
We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. I mean, we had Christian talking over it, so that will be fine.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be okay.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I mean, I love the numbers with KZ. I think it's obviously sample small, but I believe in him winning that starting spot in this preseason. I think that he's been better than Mo Harkless, and maybe Spo rides with the vet, and it wouldn't be the first time that he does that. I know that Spo really trusts his guys and the veterans or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, I think KZ has earned that. Like, I don't even think there's a question.
If you're gonna ride with the vet though, then maybe KO or Myers. Like, you can't give it to Mo. I just don't think that you can give it to him.
No, you
with
got to
what
give
he's
him a
shown.
chance. I mean, you got to give him a chance to work it out. Like, he hasn't been good. He's been downright really fucking bad.
Yeah, he's been atrocious.
He's been awful. He's been their worst player.
Okay, so we agree. Thanks. So he's not
been
going to play.
the worst player that's like played like real minutes that matter that you think that may play. Like, we called Max Strus. Is it the Strus or Strus? We called Max Strus the worst NBA player ever. And we were wrong.
Now we're all aboard the Struce boost.
Yep. Shout out to the Deuces. We're gonna get into him in a little bit, but yeah, that's to me is the
Well, just rounding out the small samples, I think probably my favorite small sample, just because it's only a handful of possessions. But so far, Mr. Strus has not missed in transition.
Oh,
He's got 7 points in 3 possessions. Like, that is lethal efficiency. And when you have somebody that can just stop and pop like he can and just terrorize defenses, that's demoralizing watching those shots go in. So that has huge value for a team.
that's a good one.
That was small. That was sample size.
I mean, he did
That
dunk.
was
That was pretty cool.
The Strus is loose, chat says. I kind of want to get into Max Strus. Tiffany, Tiffany's in chat saying no Mo. She's so done with Mo Harkless. We'll see. I'm a big Mo Harkless apologist.
I mean, as long as he can stay on the court, like, he literally cannot stay on the court right now.
I believe in him figuring it out defensively. But we'll see. We'll see.
What has he done in his career that makes you believe in him?
He's a good.
That's a great question.
He's been a good defender on competent playoff teams, like Portland and stuff.
What
like
team?
That. Like, he's the Blazers. The Blazers.
That one Portland team.
I mean, he was on Portland for a long time, Brian, and they were always like good. He was starting.
I'm gonna look at his basketball reference, and you tell me if he's had a single good NBA season.
He has. He shot 40% from 3 1 year.
He actually did do that.
There's a reason why I like Mo Harkless. I mean, he's proven to be really wrong.
I think you just like him because of his name.
Right, but I think we should also know better about players with like one good, really maybe 1 or 2 really good shooting seasons. I feel like we kind of learned it. Gianni, it looks. Did the stream go down?
No.
Oh, is it my network?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Sure
okay.
I was like, DMCA won't happen that fast. chill out.
God damn it, freaked me out.
We got to be patient on Mo. It's just unfair to just chastise him.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happened with Jay Crowder.
It's been 2 preseason games. It's been 2 preseason games. We got to chill the fuck out. It's okay.
No, I'm willing to give Mo time, but I don't think that I don't think Spo can put him in the starting lineup on opening night. Like,
I don't think so either.
He hasn't done anything in the preseason to like actually warrant being a starter. That doesn't mean that I don't think he should get some minutes.
I think that KZ should be the starter at the 4. I don't know if he'll do that.
What do you think he's gonna do for the lineup? Because he's played basically every guy but Udonis in the last 2 games, and he sat multiple guys in each game, so it's hard to tell which way he's gonna go.
I think for sure it's gonna be Bam. It's gonna be I think Harkless is probably gonna get the nod, even if I disagree. It's gonna be Jimmy. It's gonna be Duncan, and it's gonna be Tyler. And I think that's the 5 that they're gonna roll out. Now I would like that same 5, except with KZ. I think the most interesting part of the rotation going forward is going to be Nunn. Is Nunn going to find minutes? Because if you're starting Tyler and Duncan, and then you're bringing Goran as your first guard off the bench, are you just playing a Goran, Kendrick, Nunn backcourt? What are you doing over there? Are you? I guess where do you put Strus positionally if he's going to get minutes? Can you just put him?
Strus is not going to get minutes. I can tell you that.
You don't think Strus is going to? You don't think Strus would get Kendrick Nunn minutes? You haven't even mentioned
Avery Bradley yet.
That's right, Avery Bradley.
That's a great point.
He hasn't looked good either. So, I mean, if your first 2 guards off the bench are going to be Goran and Bradley, then is Kendrick Nunn going to have minutes? Chat saying that Nunn's going to find his minutes in Houston.
But that's what I keep going back to. I feel like this team was structured right now at this point to be prepared to offload 3 or 4 players and still have a functional rotation. That's why they have like 12, 13 guys they can play. I think they're probably looking to make a move, which is why I feel like the Harden rumors are probably legit.
So they converted Strus's to a deal, so he's gonna be on the team for the season. He's a 6'6" guy. I think he can play. I think in non-Duncan minutes he can get a little run. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the 5 guys off the bench are gonna be Goran, Avery Bradley, Olynyk, as your Andre, and then maybe Strus. That wouldn't surprise me. And then maybe whoever doesn't start of between KZ and Harkless. I guess that's where it gets tricky. Because if you're starting Harkless, then you're bringing Goran, you're bringing Avery Bradley, you're bringing KZ, you're bringing Andre, right? And then I think those 4 are pretty solidified. And then that 5th guy is probably maybe Olynyk. I mean, I like Olynyk, but Spo has kind of been reluctant to play him. Precious also in the mix. Strus. So they're gonna be they have a bit of depth in the season where I think it's gonna matter, right? Like I don't think you're mad if you got to play any of those guys. If maybe one of the guards gets hurt, you have Kendrick Nunn who can really slide in and is a competent, productive NBA player. So I kind of like their depth. Right now, I think that what Christian said is true. They really built, if they gut the team, they're going to have guys that are playable, and especially playing around some other stars. Shout out to Clutch Adam in the chat, by the way, friend of the show. Thanks for coming by, Clutch. He says, could Spo start Mo similar to how he did with Myers, even though we knew he couldn't be a closer? That's kind of how I think it could be.
That's a very Spo move.
Yeah. But what are they going to do with Myers? That's
Hold on, that's the Luke Babbitt treatment. I love how we're calling it the Myers treatment when it was really the Luke Babbitt treatment.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he's barely played in preseason. Has he even played 10 minutes?
He did play in the first game a little bit, but like
a little bit,
that was the thing, is like he was one of their first signings, and like to sign up for $10 million this year, I just feel like they must have had some kind of a plan for him.
How much of this is them also just like easing veterans back in? Like, I'm not saying that Myers played a ton of minutes or anything, but it's also like we only have 2 preseason games. It's a quick turnaround. Like, we barely seen Jimmy. We saw Goran for the first time. Like, maybe they're easing their way into these things. We don't know.
I mean, Myers is a young man. He's 27 years old. Like, what are we talking about?
Sam Myers is a trade chip, and I agree.
Yeah, I mean, well, if he is, then he has to play, right? You got to show him to teams that he's
but you're trading him as salary filler. You're not trading.
I guess that's true.
I mean, you're and again, I know that we've gone over this a couple times. Shout out to Miami Heat UK, friend of the pod. Went on the show. Check out their YouTube channel. For Myers, like we've talked about this a bunch. That I know that he has a no trade clause because he signed the 1+1. But, I mean, I think we're under the assumption that there's some sort of wink-wink deal with the organization in which they said, hey, listen, Myers, we're going to give you this $10 million. Nobody else is going to give you this in the market. When it comes to if we need to move you, we'd ask you to please waive the no-trade clause. And I think that's kind of the assumption that I operate under as to why they gave him that deal, because the 10 million kind of gets you to some salary that you wouldn't have otherwise. Especially, I don't think that they're gonna move Goran for anybody. I think that's just
definitely
the guy.
not.
And Jimmy loves Goran. I mean,
Jimmy
we had Rohan.
was gonna kill Goran if he didn't resign with the Heat.
We had Rohan Nadkardian from Sports Illustrated who profiled Jimmy Butler, and one of his priorities was calling Goran every day in Slovenia.
That was a great pod.
Rohan's amazing.
When are we gonna track this Harden news? Because I'm interested.
Listen, I'm down to track. I'm down to track Hurricane Harden. I think. Listen, I'm all in. You know me. I want to get my live Hurricane Harden music kind of going. I mean, you kind of caught me off guard, Brian.
Do you need us to filibuster for you?
I do need you to filibuster.
Alex, tell me more about the young guys and why you don't want to trade Tyler Hero for James Harden.
No,
I mean, no. Let's get to it because
why are we
fucking
revisiting
hate
this?
guy.
I hate this. I hate that take. It's such a bad take.
Look,
I just on the pod.
Yes, I'm like the only guy that doesn't want Harden, but it's fine. Listen,
Alex, talk about why you want Harden.
Look, I'm in a weird place because I've come to the point where like I fully expect it to happen, so I'm trying to like get myself to be okay with it. But then you see KZ break out. And then it's like, well, then fuck, what are we going to do? Like, I saw a great quote today. Shout out to Brady Hawk, Bam Adebayo, saying that one of his favorite things about this Heat team is our depth. Well, guess what? As soon as you trade for Harden, there goes the depth. You know, like
we just went over why they have depth.
Right,
Yeah,
and the Heat,
but I didn't
anybody
agree.
can manufacture depth. It's the Heat. There's probably like 4 guys on the street right now that they probably want to sign, but they can't. And it's like the second that they get the opportunity that they will. Like,
All right.
Girl Chris is out on the streets. You got Gerald Green back on the streets. I think Ronnie McGruder's about to get cut again.
Come home,
A lot of
Rodney.
guys. Yeah,
By the
come
way,
home.
we have. All right, we're tracking James Harden. This is live Weather Channel music, tracking Hurricane Harden.
Are we gonna get DMCA'd again?
yeah, no,
Is it?
Johnny, you do need
Are
to think
we?
about these things before you start playing.
I don't know. I
these
just kind of
clips
wanted
that,
music
like,
for the segment. You know, tracking Harden. I like it. Are we gonna get in trouble? Are we gonna get taken down? Can one of my mods tell me? Brian M. Keabin.
Where'd you get the music?
Are we
from?
safe? Huh?
All right, Johnny, don't worry about it. Just go. Let's do this.
Let's just go. We're tracking Hurricane Harden. There was a report today by an ESPN Houston radio host that now the Toronto Raptors are in the mix for James Harden, as well as the Boston Celtics, which I think is funny because the Raptors in particular haven't really been mentioned, and I think the Raptors offering Siakam in any deal for James Harden makes it interesting. I don't even know how Toronto would get to the salary. That would be a little complicated.
If anybody can figure out, it's going to be Masai. I would not underestimate him making this kind of move at all.
He did move DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi, but I feel like that was a different move. This to me would make much sense because once you trade Siakam for Harden, then you're stuck with 3 backcourt guys and hardly any big men on the front court. And then what are you going to do to kind of team up Harden with another all-star? Because once Kyle Lowry's contract's up, I don't assume that he would come back to be part of that 3-guard rotation. Like, you signed Fred VanVleet for a reason because he's your point guard for the future. Is Kyle Lowry literally going to come back just to be a backup or a 6-man?
Well, I mean, I guess the main thing is, like, I don't really want to talk about the fit on the Raptors and the kind of the validation of the report. While, you know, Miami Heat UK says, you know, just drumming up interest because it came from a Houston reporter, which is a very valid thing to say. I just think that if theoretically Pascal is offered, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a better package than what Miami.
How that affects the Heat? Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it depends how Houston. I mean, Pascal was second team All NBA last season. You know, he hasn't looked good in the preseason. He hasn't really looked good since the playoffs, right? So I'm sure that factors into it a little bit. But I mean, he's a guy that's All-Star ready. He's a little bit further. He's locked up. He has quite a big contract. The other team that kind of got in the game for this from that report was the Boston Celtics offering Jaylen Brown, who is not an all-star, but he was very close last season. And, you know.
Damn, chat really disagrees with me.
With what?
They really think that Pascal's not better than Hero.
And Robinson. And I think Heat fans are going to feel that way, but I just want to, like, I want chat to understand, like, I'm talking from a league perspective, right? Like, I'm talking about, like,
Tyler.
Just general NBA perspective. I think that I think generally people, whether Heat fans feel that the Heat offer is better or not, doesn't matter. It's what Houston feels, right? And I think Houston might like the Raptors or the Celtic package. And I think Marcus Smart plus Jaylen Brown plus stuff starts to get you places if you're Boston. And if you're Miami, what that's going to mean is, okay, now we're really leveraged into including Duncan Robinson. And I think that's what matters here. Whether the deal is better or not doesn't really, that's not interesting to me. It's what it's going to leverage Miami to include. Now, and I think the timing of the reports also matter. So we kind of heard, Leif and Adam, 5 Reasons, were talking about how, the Heat are really kind of reluctant to put Duncan in deals, and it's about gutting the team and blah, blah, blah. And then for the Heat, for the Rockets to then leak that report a day later, I think is interesting. I just feel that's interesting. And I feel like that's kind of the timing of how reporting is leaked is something to monitor. So if you're Miami, I think you want to keep Duncan at all costs. I think you kind of hype up these other guys like KZ and Strus or whatever you need to kind of keep Duncan. I don't know how much that'll work, but I just thought that report was interesting, Christian.
No, definitely. And just from like a fit perspective, when you're going to have a team that has James Harden, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, you absolutely need a guy like Duncan Robinson. And having him, like, it's kind of a perfect fit for making, like, if you make that trade, you're making a run with that group for the next, 3-4 years? And so right? Why do you react like that, Musibay? Like, I mean, the oldest player would be Jimmy, who's 31?
They're both the same age.
For me, Harden
and Jimmy are same age.
For me, Harden is a 2-year thing, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I think the second that we inevitably reach the finals or win a championship, I think that guy's going to go crazy. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get him back into the gym in time. I think this is going to be like a Shaq situation. You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like there's kind of a lot of parallels there that are fun to kind of consider. I just love the idea of Jimmy going into the gym at 3:30. But, Harden's actually just
really
getting back from the club or something.
Honestly, all the stories that we've heard from Harden going out to, like, Vegas, in the middle of, like, not back-to-back, but, like,
he wouldn't have to go anywhere. I mean, you really got to go somewhere else other than Miami. Like, that's definitely a perk.
But I think the biggest thing, like, about just the whole Harden thing is, like, we know how hard of a worker he is. Like, credit to him. Like, he built his game through hard work, not just because of his talents. And what is this? Is there new stuff out there?
I'm showing a picture on the screen of James Harden at a bar without a mask last night.
Get out of here. Give me this.
He doesn't look fat there.
I mean, look, he
doesn't look fat.
He probably already had
Listen,
it.
The podcast is not a visual medium. This is for the stream. This James Harden does not look like Santa Claus.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny stuff out there. And the fact
he doesn't look skinny, but he doesn't look like Santa. There's also hookah that looks dangerous during COVID. There's some fans. There's a high voltage ceiling, maybe better for circulation. Yeah.
Let me tell you, this is gonna be if we land Harden, this is gonna be a rough year for Udonis. Like, he's gonna be busy this year.
Udonis is gonna be that's why you keep UD. That's why you keep UD.
So, do you guys really want to go more about, like, tracking Harden news? Because there is some more news that we haven't gotten into. I mean, we talked about the news that came out today, but there was a stream yesterday that 5 Reasons had, and Leif was on it. So was Clutch. I'm not sure what his actual name is. Adam something. I don't know what his last name is.
Clutch Adam.
Clutch Adam. He they did like a short, like, podcast sort of thing on their stream yesterday with Ethan, and they were talking about how they had, like, text exchanges at 4 a.m. And from what they gather from their sources, they believe that the Heat had the best offer on the table, according to their sources.
So,
and
like,
that offer does not include Duncan Robinson, and they believe a deal probably could get done if they add one of either Precious or KZ to the table.
Ooh. Okay.
Well, if they want to add Precious, then it has to be after Christmas.
Yeah, so it looks
there's,
like it would
there's a
be
stipulation
KZ.
there in his contract.
Yeah. They said the players that are on the deal right now, currently is Tyler, Iggy, and Kelly, and Kendrick Nunn. And so really the last piece that they would add to that trade deal, not including Duncan, would be probably KZ, since he would be the one that they could move now instead of waiting later on in the year. And another thing on the report, which we've also heard, I think, from who was it that reported the whole? It was a guy that I think is he's the writer for I think SI Now. I forgot his name.
Oh yeah.
But the whole thing about Harden and Houston wanting to make a deal happened before their first game on Tuesday, the start of the regular season.
Yeah. So I wanna properly credit. Also, he writes for Forbes. Pulling up the report.
No, yeah, and Clutch Adams in the chat, he added that he thinks, in his opinion, that it's going to be 2 out of 3 between Duncan, KZ, and Precious. So that looks like where the sticking point seems to be, and so obviously that's a big question that the Heat have to ask is, where do they put their priorities there?
I think the shooting for sure.
But then to me, I think you have to start asking, like, maybe you get the shooting with KZ, but also some athleticism, some size, some length defensively. Like, those are things that when you're trying to put together the best 5 to win titles, like those are things you have to consider. And obviously Duncan is possibly already a legendary shooter.
That's why I want to kill him.
These are very difficult
keep him on the group,
questions.
you have the best offensive lineup probably in the NBA right now.
So Farbad
No
and
deal.
Ashri. Farbad and Ashri of Forbes and SI did that report. I put his in the chat so people can kind of follow him. I don't know how credible he is. He's been very all over the place on the Harden stuff. So
Yeah, I mean,
he's been very consistent. He's very
Didn't he have a
consistent with Harden to the Nets.
I think, yeah, he had a report not too long ago, like a month ago, saying that it was pretty much a done deal, that he was going to the Nets.
Yeah, that's why I would be very. He said it was done, and I would be speculative about what he says, not to discredit his reporting, just kind of given the history. I'm not too familiar with him, but just kind of throwing that out there and kind of giving the background on that. So I mean, I don't. To be honest with you, any Nets thing is garbage. It can't really offer that much. I don't think that Miami deal is great. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best. It starts getting more interesting when Duncan, KZ, and Precious are involved, right? So then the Tyler plus Nunn plus expiring salaries, it's not a great deal, and it depends if you feel like Tyler's a superstar, that changes things. But I mean, if you don't feel Tyler's a superstar, then that deal's not that attractive.
I will say, though, the Heat have done a really good selling job just from their perspective, because constantly, in the media, they've been putting out that Tyler's not on the table, how highly they value him, that they think he's higher than Devin Booker. Like, they've done their sales job in terms of playing up what they feel about Tyler. So they're clearly, when they're negotiating, they're putting him as a big chip. So I guess we have to see how big that is.
I think KZ's game probably did a lot of good things for Miami at their negotiation table.
I think so too. And not that they come from a position of strength. I mean, I guess they kind of do. I mean, they made the finals last year. So, I mean, anything that they do is from a position of strength. But they're from a position of strength that, if all of a sudden you have options about, okay, I'm going to keep either one of Duncan or KZ or whatever, you have that extra card to play if it comes to. I believe kind of they don't want to gut the roster for Harden. I do believe that. I genuinely believe that if it's literally going to cost everything, I think that they may just say no.
I think the deal would be done if all those players were on the table. I think definitely Raj trying to keep as many of these pieces, because it's going to be much harder once you add Harden to the team to add good, competent players to that rotation, especially this season. Next year will be a little easier because you have a mid-level. You might still have a biannual. I mean, you'll have a couple of things that you could use to kind of fill out that roster, but you want to try to keep as many of these good, especially a guy like Duncan. You can still keep him after this year and re-sign him to a deal that you wouldn't be able to offer anybody else because of his bird rights alone. So
Yeah.
that's important. I think if you
He's a
want to
free
try to
agent.
keep guys like a Duncan Robinson, who's a shooter that you won't be able to find anybody else in the market unless you try to like find somebody off the streets like Strus, then I think it would be really imperative for Miami to try to keep a guy like him, because just his contract's so valuable right now that they could really keep him and build a rotation around, those 4 guys.
Yeah. Ty Gotti in the chat says Miami would definitely have to ask for something other than just Harden. It can't be a 5-to-1 deal, which is true, and that's why there's been a lot of reports that
They
Houston
can't
is
really,
trying
but
to
they
work
can.
like a three-way deal in order to send players to the right places and for Houston to get the optimal return that they're looking for. Because you cannot just ship a ton of players over there. It's not going to work for cap purposes. It's not going to work for roster building purposes. So they have to work out those details, which also I'm sure takes time and coordination.
And honestly,
Yeah.
that's why I don't necessarily I'm sure that both teams would love to get a deal done before the season starts, but I just don't see that particularly happening, especially if it looks like it's going to have to be a 3-team deal for everyone to kind of like come away with this feeling like, okay, we got what we wanted out of it and all. And so when you start adding more pieces and more teams, this thing drags out a little bit more, and then they start going back to the other team trying to up the ante. So I think I tweeted it out earlier today that for me, I don't know why, I just think that like Saturday or Sunday, like right after Christmas, once Precious and more rookie contracts are probably available for all of these teams to kind of swing in there. That's for me what I think is more of a realistic timeline for a Harden trade.
I know that somebody said that they're trying to get it, that there's increased pressure to get it done before the season starts on Tuesday. I just don't find that possible. Brian, what were you saying? I think you were going to give some insight about why you can't trade 5 for 1.
Well, in terms of Miami really can't add anybody else because they're pretty much like with the deal that I think that they're trying to get done without Duncan on the table. They really can't take back any more salary besides Harden. I mean, they're already going to be they're not going to be hard capped, but they're like at the minimum peak that they can like offer contracts without be able to add anybody like an Avery Bradley or Mo Harkless or a Myers Leonard at the moment. Like those are contracts that would be helpful right now for a move like that to maybe get a PJ Tucker back, but they really can't unless they really give up like every single piece that they have, including Silva, Duncan Robinson, like clearing out every single minimum salary that they have.
But bring back somebody like PJ Tucker is building a team to win titles. Like he's a guy that you can slot in that 6th, 7th man role if necessary, and he's going to really help you.
I agree too. That's the thing. I think they could probably get him. It just can't be in this deal. It has to be like later on in the year, just because it's so hard cap wise to make it happen. And I know Andy probably could do something, but I don't know if they can even get a 3rd team and still reroute PJ Tucker here because it's just the amount of salary that it would cost for Miami to bring him here. It's so much. And what sucks is that they have a trade exception that they could use right now, and it's like $400,000 below what PJ Tucker is making this season. It's like they have like $7.5 million right now, and PJ Tucker's salary is $7.9 million.
So Clutch Adam is saying that they can agree to a trade without announcing it if Precious is included, because Precious can't get traded for a bit, a lot like the Love Wiggins deal 6 years ago. That's also true. Brian,
shout out to Adam for dropping knowledge in the chat.
Yeah, Adam's amazing. Adam's a friend of the show. I got to VIP you for Twitch chat because you are indeed a friend of the show. You're a homie. I'm gonna be on Adam's show on Tuesday, so you can check that out on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm gonna be there. Kind of got to support the homies over there. Heat Media family. Brian, I have a question for you, and I don't know if you have an answer to this. The Heat are not hard cap, I guess. Did they use the biannual on Avery Bradley? Is that information out?
The information that's been out is that they just split the mid-level exception that they had.
Wouldn't that hard cap them because they used all of it?
No.
When you split it won't hard cap you.
No.
Because I know that once you cross a certain threshold, I think it's like 5.4 million of the mid-level, you get hard cap.
The mid-level that they use does not trigger the hard cap.
Andy's such a fucking genius.
So the hard cap would be triggered if they use a biannual, or they would be triggered if they do a sign and trade, or it'd be triggered if they use the room. No, not the room. Yeah, the room mid-level exception, which they haven't because they were an overcap team this year.
That's man. Listen, never doubt Andy, never doubt Pat. They know exactly what they're doing at all times. And yeah, like I'm curious to see how this story develops now that we're we're gonna go into a pretty, I'm sure, busy news time from now until Tuesday when the season kicks off, and then the Heat play Wednesday. Which, by the way, we're doing our hangover time after the first game against Orlando, so make sure to check that out. We're very excited for that. We have a special guest for that stream, so make sure to tune in right here to twitch.tv/MIAHeatbeat.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm
don't
pumped.
miss it, guys. That show is a ton of fun, really.
I'm actually excited for the guests. It's a maiden MHB voyage. I think Miami's gonna know them very well. It's a beloved South Florida sports figure that I think you guys are really gonna love. So make sure to come by twitch.tv/MIAHeatbeat right after Heat Magic. Alf is gonna host. Musibay is gonna be on. I'm not gonna be here. Alf banned me. Alf banned me after. Alf has banned
It's
me.
not
from
a ban. Oh my
from the
God.
foreseeable future.
Stop taking it so personally.
He's listening to the YouTube comments that hate me, and he's gonna do this for you, the fans. So make sure to check that out. Make sure to get in on our Discord server. Subscribe. Listen, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitch. That matters. That helps us. Listen, we want to do this more full time. We want to give you guys this content. We want to be, we really want to up what we're doing for you guys, especially with the Heat.
We want to leave our day jobs and make this an actual job.
Like legit, like the Heat are going to be a really good team for the foreseeable future. Brian and I have been all in on this for a long time. So please, if you can support us any way you can, we're trying our best with the pods and with all this different stuff and with Twitch and with YouTube, and we're going to be doing more stuff. We're busting our ass for you guys because we want to do the best that we can, and for ourselves because we're selfish and we just want to do cool shit. So follow us.
By the way, use your if you have a Twitch Prime account or you have a Prime account, Amazon Prime account, you can go to, I think it's twitch.gaming.com. Brian M probably can link the thing again, but there is a way for you on your desktop to use your Amazon Prime account that you already have and use that to subscribe for free to our show.
Yeah,
if
you guys look in the chat, the Nightbot actually just shared the link. If you haven't already used it, you can use it to subscribe to Miami Heat Beat, and Amazon covers it.
I love how little we know about Twitch. So Brian M, our stream producer, kind of wrote those scripts in. So if you put !YouTube, right, the Nightbot will spit out, a script that is pre-done. So we have a lot of scripts, !Prime, and then bam, you get a link. That's all. That's producing, baby. That's Brian M. Shout out to Brian M. We love you. He's great. So make sure to check us out
on your
on
desktop,
all those.
because if you try doing it on your phone, it's like, I don't know, it's so weird, but you can't. It has to be done on a desktop. So do that.
It's great. So shout out to everybody who supports us, and please kind of support us more. We want to do this as much as we can in the best ways that we can, and we want the qualities to be good. We want to pay everybody a fair wage because that's what we're about here. A Miami Heat Beat. We're an ethical labor company, right? We're doing our best. So shout out to the support. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you for the season pod on Tuesday. I believe we're also going to be live at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. We're working on getting Nikias on. Nikias is a very busy person. It's very hard to reach him, but I would imagine that he will be on, and we'll have other Heat Beat personalities and maybe another guest. Who knows? So check us out Tuesday, 7 p.m. and all that other stuff I told you. So be safe and enjoy. Probably a lot of people have fantasy basketball drafts coming up. Enjoy. Draft Bam High. We got this. Culture.